Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to give another minute or so for people to join us before we get started. So while you're waiting, if you want to jump into the chat and let us know where you're joining us from today. I know some people have been doing it already. We've got Colorado, Germany, Atlanta, and oh, that must be a lot better weather than I'm having today. So I'm a little envious. Italy, wow, we're really international this morning, which is great to see. All right. I think people are still going to be trickling in, but let's go ahead and get started. Good morning, everybody. My name is Molly Lord, and I am a member of the team at Scrum Alliance, and we are so excited to welcome you to the Elevate Your Impact, the Product Owners Tool for Continuous Learning webinar today. This is a webinar that's going to be a deep dive and exploration of the Comparative Agilities tool, the Product Owner Personal Improvement Tool, which is one of your exclusive member benefits as a member of Scrum Alliance. So in case you're not sure, or you got your certification through someone and then got some emails from Scrum Alliance, but you're not quite sure who we are the largest and oldest nonprofit membership organization in the Scrum and Agile space. We were established in 2001. And since that time, we have issued over 1,876,000 certifications across the globe. And we operate on the mission of advancing real-world agility by equipping and inspiring the change maker in everybody. So as a member of Scrum Alliance, you get access to quite a few really cool member benefits. You get access to our specially curated and created learning journey courses, which we partner with our amazing Certified Scrum Trainer community to build just for you. You also get connected to our incredible global community through things like our events, our webinars, our content. You get to really learn from people across the globe. And as part of that, you also get discounts to our regional Scrum gatherings and your global Scrum gathering. You also get access to the Retrium Retrospective tool, as well as our comparative agility tools. You get access to the comparative agility tool, as well as the product owner personal improvement tool. And if you also have your certified Scrum Master with us, you get access to the Scrum Master personal improvement tool. So really quick before we dive in and I hand it over to our incredible hosts, a quick tour of the console you're in today. So if you have any questions for our speaker, I ask that you throw that in the Q&A box highlighted on your screen now, and I will do a moderated Q&A with our speakers at the end. We also encourage you to react throughout the webinar. You can send us emojis, let us know how things are going. If some piece of content really sticks out to you, we really love seeing all these reactions. And if you want to chat with your fellow attendees, I think you'll have all found the chat to drop in your location, but just in case, you can hop in there as well. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Jorgen.
Okay, thank you so much, Molly. I really appreciate that introduction. I'm Jorgen Hesselberg. I'm the co-founder of Comparative Agility, and I am joined by two amazing hosts today, Rune Meyer and Valerio Zanini. I think we just go over to each of them so they can give a little overview of who they are and what they do, because they are pretty amazing individuals. Why don't we start with you, Rune? I can see right now that you are in battle dress. What's going on? Where are you calling from, and what do you do?
Yeah, hello, Jorgen. Thank you for having me. I'm joining from Juba, South Sudan, where I'm currently serving in the United Nations peacekeeping operation. Due to my T-shaped skills, I had to take some time off software and do some military work in the meantime while waiting for new projects. So thanks for having me. I was happy to be one of the team that developed the PI tool that we're going to present. And I think I'm here to talk, about what we did and how we achieved. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Rune. And speaking of developing the tool, one of the leaders of that effort was Valerio Zanini. He is not just a product owner or product manager, he's also a teacher of product owners and managers. So Zanini, why don't you say hello and tell people a little bit about who you are?
Thank you, Jorgen. Hi, everyone. I'm Valerio. I'm a certified Scrum Trainer with the Scrum Alliance, and I've been a product owner in my entire career. I help Jorgen and the rest of the community facilitate the work to create the product owner assessment tool.
Awesome. And we will hear more about that later on. We'll talk about how the tool is created, how it can benefit you. That's part of the point we're doing this in the first place. So let me just share my screen here. We'll see if this is working out. And I will go through the agenda real quick. So the things we're going to go through, very simply, first, we're going to talk about how you can activate your exclusive and free benefits, because this is free. This is one of those things that I think it's pretty ironic right now that we're going through this upheaval. You know, we can see that companies are struggling, they are laying people off. There's lots of volatility and change going on. And at the same point, this is probably where agility is more important than it ever has been. So there is this ironic part going on. This is where we need to step up and show our value to not just ourselves and our community, but also to our companies. And I think a tool like this can be part of that journey. So part of what we're going to do here is to show you how you can activate that benefit. A lot of people aren't aware of how to do that, so we'll show you how to do that real quick. Then we'll go behind the scenes a little bit. Valerio and Rune gave you a little preview. We'll talk about how this tool was developed, because I think that's important for you to trust this tool and to feel that it's valid in your learning journey. You need to understand how it was created. And this is truly one of those that was made for us and by us as a community. So we'll talk about how that was created. Then we'll do a quick demo just to show you how the tool itself works. Always useful to know that. If you have any questions around it, we'll take care of those as well. And then we'll talk about some exclusive findings that we found after analyzing the data from how people are working as product owners. We were able to find a lot of things around what's working as a product owner, what's challenging, and where there's a lot of a disagreement. So we'll share some of those findings that I think will be quite useful and then kind of interesting for us as a community to see where we want to go next. And then we'll just wrap it up at the end with a Q&A. So that's what the agenda looks like. Of course, we'll be agile. If something happens, we'll try to adapt as we go along. But first, how do we activate the product owner PI? It isn't that difficult, but a lot of people aren't aware of how to do that. So we're just going to make sure we know how to do that right now. Very quickly, here are the steps. First, log into your Scrum Alliance account. It's pretty simple to do. You probably know where that is already. I'll show you afterwards. Click on benefits. You see there's a little link there to the left. Then you click on the card that's called Product Owner Personal Improvement Tool. Now, just click on that. That will not appear for you if you are not a CSPO. If you are a CSPO, you see that. Click on that. Once you do that, you can either sign up if you haven't signed up with Comparative Agility before, or you can log in if you already have an account. So pretty simple to do, but I will actually try to show you, because I think very often it's kind of easy to talk about, but sometimes it can be tricky to actually see how that works. So let me go in here and show this live. So I'm going to go in here now, share my screen, and go into the tool itself. Let's see if we go in here. I'll go right here, and now you should see my screen. Here is the Scrum Alliance webpage. I'm now logged in. What I'm going to do now is I'll show you exactly how to get there. I'll go to your account here. You go to your dashboard. And once you go to your dashboard, you'll be able to see, your profile in the Scrum Alliance. Then click on benefits. You can see I need to get my SEUs upgraded. That's one of the benefits of having that dashboard available to you. And then once you click on benefits, here's where you see that particular card, the Product Owner Personal Improvement. So pretty simple. Easy to get to, but I think it's just one of those things that people sometimes forget as they do it. But just wanted to show you that so you know how to get in. So now let's go a little bit back in history and look at what happened. How did this tool come to be? It really was a community effort from the very beginning. It was one of those things where we said, you know what, let's see what we can do to help the community do better. That was the whole purpose. And where we started was that if we went back, we went to look at this behind the scenes, and in 2021, in July, is when we first launched the tool. It was truly a collaborative effort between, I think, three groups. It was the Comparative Agility Advisory Group, which is called the CAT, and then there was experts. You can hear the experts here. You can see them on the screen. Jeff Patton, Roman Pickler, or Kenny Rubin, who helped us. And then ultimately, there were additional volunteers that provided feedback along the way. In total, there's about 28 people from multiple time zones that worked on this. And we started around January 2021, and in July is when we released it. So it was a wonderful journey as we went through it, lots of lessons learned. But now we're going to see how we did it, because I think this is kind of part of what makes this tool useful. And it's because of how we got to the point, which was quite interactive and also covered a lot of different areas of expertise. So let me do this and let you take over here, if you don't mind, Valerio, and take us through the mural board so we can see how we actually did the work of creating the personal improvement tool.
Let me start by sharing my screen with the Miro board. Here we go. That's a little bit of behind the scenes of how we did that. In order to create this tool, we had to put three things together. One, of course, was the community, the Scrum Alliance community. And because we wanted to, for this tool to be a community tool available to all the product owners within the Scrum Alliance community. The second part was the experience. We needed to partner with a company that could bring that experience in building a reliable, sophisticated tool to assess competencies and provide advice on the skill set. And that's why the Scrum Alliance partnered with Comparative Agility. And the third part was we needed people that had on-the-job experience and could guide us in making the right decisions in terms of deciding what kind of questions to include in the tool, what kind of skills to assess, and so on. So we reached out to the Scrum Alliance community, and we had, I don't remember the number now, Jorgen, probably was like 7 to 8 people that provided interest in supporting this activity. And we ended up with about 30 people that actually worked for several weeks on creating this tool. So I want to share a few things. The first thing is this. When we started this activity, we created a Miro board, and that was our facilitation tool, our space to share the knowledge and make decisions. The first thing we had to decide was what are the general areas, the general skill that we want to assess for the product owners, and the general areas they want to help the product owners grow. If you look at this picture, there are different areas. We identified 8 of these areas, and one of them, the one in the middle, manage the product backlog, is probably the one that product owners spend the most time with. On a daily basis, that's where the product owners probably focuses the most. But we wanted to expand that knowledge, expand that list with other areas that really help product owners to assess their skills and provide growth opportunities. So as they want to grow their expertise, they want to grow the skills, maybe grow in their career, what are all the different areas they should be looking at, they should develop? And hence we came up with these 8 different growth areas. And we also reached out to some experts, including Ken Rubin, Roman Pitcher, and Jeff Patton, to get their expertise, their advice, their guidance on what we were doing. As we got started on this activity, we grouped all the different volunteers and participants together, and we created 4 teams. Each team was responsible for working on 2 of those categories, 2 of those areas. And over a few weeks, they bonded, they shared their expertise, and then they worked at creating the assessment. Rune, for example, was one of the people that participated in one of these teams, and he may be able to share some of his behind the scenes experience in actually how it was to work with the team and what were some of the activities that the team did. Rune, would you like to share some?
Yes, thank you. So the team 4 that I was a part of, we worked with the two categories, leadership and measure value delivered. And you don't see that from the names, but one of us was sitting in US, one was in India, and one was in Europe. So it meant that we had a hard time finding times for our meetings as we were spanning over a lot of time zones. That was the first challenge. Then the second was that we also had to know what were actually the things we wanted to measure and how should we measure this for these categories, and what would be the smart things to ask about. So we would use the guide and the training material for the product owner trainings to also use that as a guide into how would this measurement and how could we assess the skill level for this. And it's only 3 names in the group in the Miro board now, but we had a lot of helpers, both from the other groups, from Valerio and from our super coaches in here. So as for instance, when we talked about this measure value delivered, I had a very long session with Roman Pinchler about values, and that was really lifting our understanding and also the input to the tool. So I will leave it here, Valerio.
Yeah, and so we did, when we got started, we did a few activities in terms of creating teams, establishing team norms, all these kind of things, which is typical when you start a new team, like a team lift-off. And then maybe we can talk a little bit more about the actual process of selecting the different statements. I think I would like to start with this, and we need to explain the little mechanics, maybe the little philosophy or theory behind the statements. And Jorgen, maybe you are the most expert at this. Would you like to explain the Likert scale and how we structure the statements?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm definitely not going to claim to be an expert, but I certainly have some experience in it. Likert is a scale that is very common, especially in the social sciences. It is the most widely used survey methodology used in social science research, like psychology and sociology and things like that. One thing it does really well is that it works really well when you aggregate information, and it provides a lot of nuance. So the way it works is that instead of actually asking a question, what you will do is you will basically assert a statement, or you will provide a particular assertion. And then the user, the person who's responding, essentially then answers with a response to that assertion. And you see the question here is, the sprint retrospective is a safe space. That's a very simple statement. It's not very hard. I mean, it's very hard to kind of misinterpret that. It literally says, this is a safe space. And then it's you then, as a respondent, who can then respond to that with 5 different responses. Everything from strongly agree, which means that you definitely agree with that statement, with that assertion, and to all the way down to 1, which is strongly disagree. So every single survey item has a value from 5 to 1, 5 being a positive in that sense that we assert that, having a safe space is a good thing. So if you score high on these particular statements, that's probably a good thing if you're a product owner. And then if you score low, that would be a negative thing. You'll also see that we do have a neutral response. And that is something that we have there because there are some people who don't quite understand how to answer the question, or it might not apply to them. So 3 is usually the neutral response in this sense. And you will see later on when we show you some of the insights that there are some people who actually don't know how to answer that particular question, which is also interesting. But yeah, the short answer is it's a really simple way to get some really insightful information in a lot of different survey items quickly.
Great. And for us, as we were doing the work, the challenge was to identify a list of statements that then we could offer to the product owners to assess their own competency level, their own skill set using the Likert scale. And these statements had to be concise and clear enough to be able to be understood, but also we wanted to have a relatively limited number of statements. And yet we had to have enough of these statements to be able to assess in each of these categories. So for example, for leadership or measure value delivery, what Rune mentioned earlier, we had to really work hard to understand which statements are the most representative for what we expect the product owner to be able to show and to be able to know. And here are all the different statements that the different teams created. We went through a few different rounds of this. In fact, you see some of these are in yellow, some of these are blue, different rounds of selecting those that we thought were the most important ones, the most valuable for the product owner to be able to assess the skills. And throughout a few different weeks, we iterated, so building iteratively and incrementally, like every good Scrum team. And we refined this list and finally finalized the list that created the product owner assessment. That is the story of how we got this tool done. And I'm going to pass it back to Jorgen to share maybe some of the insights that we collected from the users, from the owners, and see what we learned from that.
Thank you for that, Valerio. Yeah, and also add one more thing, because we did one more thing on top of all of this. We also had data scientists review our statements after this. So all of this work was all done, and after that, we had some data scientists look over our work and provide some insight if there was some confusion around how the statements were formed. So that's one additional step that we did on top, which is always nice for data integrity and things like that. I thought maybe before we go into the insights, I might actually show the tool. How about that? just to see how that works. Because yeah, we sort of teased you a little bit now to show you how we developed the tool, but now let's actually show the tool so you can see that also. So I thought I'll do that. And why don't we just do a quick demo and I can go through it and show you how the tool itself works. Let's see if I can go in here. I'll show my window here. See if we can find the tool. I think this should be it. And now we'll have a chance to look at the tool and how it actually works. And here it is in all its glory. When you first log in, this is what you will be faced with. You'll see a dashboard that will show you some pretty colorful graphics and also show you some information that I think you will find interesting looking at things over time. So let me go through what this is. Let's start in the very top here. If you see the top here, you see there's a timeline. That timeline is essentially a snapshot of how you performed at the time that you took the survey. So you can go back in time and see how you were doing and kind of keep a record of how you felt that you were doing over time and see how you performed in this tool. So that's a good way for you to kind of keep a track. What's important to know is that this is only your information. Nobody else can see this information. This is only for you, so you can feel safe to say exactly how you feel about these questions. Now, once you take the survey, and let's just show you how the survey itself looks. You click on Take the Survey, and once you do that, there will be a screen that opens up that talks about the survey. As Valerio mentioned, we ended up with about 48 questions. And once you take the survey, it's pretty simple. Again, it goes down to an assertion. I maintain an up-to-date understanding of my organization's strategy. Well, as a product owner, that's probably a good idea. I need to know how my organization's strategy is translated. And it's important for me to understand this. You answer that survey with an assertion, just like we showed. And then once you do that, you go straight to the next question. Here's a question that I think is really good. I understand what constitutes value to the business. This is important as a product owner because, well, those are the people that actually pay our bills. How is it that we provide value to the business? Is it about profitability? Is it about cost efficiencies? Is it about innovation? All of those things matter. And then the next question here I think is really great too. I understand what constitutes value to end users. Now we flip this a little bit and we say, okay, not just the business now that you work for, also the users who use whatever product and service you're delivering. Do we understand that value and their perspective? So you see what's going on. I'm obviously not going to go through all the questions, but I wanted to show you what type of questions are being asked and also how you as a user can answer those. So we'll go into some of the findings later on, and I think you'll find that very interesting. I'm just going to close out of this to go back again to show you this dashboard. I showed you earlier that you have this timeline. Every time you answer the survey, you will get a highlight like this that shows you exactly where you're doing, how you're doing in each of these categories. These categories are the competencies that Rune was talking about. If you click on any of these, you will drill down one more level. So you can go specifically in and say, okay, core business competencies, I want to see specifically how I'm scoring in each and every one of those. You can also look at this briefly here and say, okay, I can see here that I may have some challenges in discovery activities, but when it comes to leadership and in managing the backlog, I'm doing quite well. So very quick way for you to see how you're doing. Now, as you scroll down, this is where it gets interesting, because here you will have a number of automatically generated recommendations. These recommendations are based on the actual scores that you had when you took the survey. And then when you click on these here, you will get specific details of what you may want to do next. Now, one thing that we didn't talk about in great detail is that part of what we spent a lot of time on was the recommendations, because one thing is to come up with the actual questions. The other is to come up with recommendations. I don't know, Valerio or Rune, maybe you can say a little bit about that work, because I think that's really important. Part of what we're doing here is curating all of these different resources that are on the web and basically going down to the ones that we believe are valid and reliable. And one thing that we did, which I am very proud of, is that we're not showing just Scrum Alliance resources. That's not to say that those are not great, but we showed resources that were agnostic, so they could be from anywhere. Do you want to say anything about those resources, Valerio or Rune?
Maybe just a quick thought is taking an assessment and having a result or a score is useful. You understand which areas you need to develop more or less and so on. But then what do you do? What's the next step, right? That's what you were just talking about, Jorgen, is we want to help product owners take the next step. And that's why we created that library of additional resources, additional articles, books, videos, and so on, divided by specific areas, so that if you want to learn a specific thing, then you have that list available to you.
That's exactly right. And if you click on any of the links, you can go. Oh, sorry, Rune, I'll be quiet.
No, that's super fine, Jorgen. So I think we spent a lot of time in curating these recommendations, definitely also because none of us have read or seen all these books or articles or whatever. So we were definitely reading a lot and also evaluating a lot of other suggestions that were not put into the tool. But I think the beauty of the tool, as Jorgen was saying, is that you can assess yourself at the time. Then you can do some of the recommendations. You can read a couple of books. You can see some videos. You can read some blog posts. And then after some time, when you have tried to put this into practice, you can come back and you can reassess yourself in the tool. And then you will get other recommendations. That will be a continuous growth for you as a product owner. And that's what I find the biggest beauty of this tool.
I think that's a good point, because I think one of the things that's so dangerous is that we might believe that once we have a certification, we are masters, we are certified Scrum product owners. That does not end the journey. That just begins the journey. I know Valerio teaches that all the time. And this tool is just one of those things you can use to try to drive that journey for you. One thing you can do once you have done this is that you will start to see progress over time. And if you look at progress over time, you will essentially look at how you've been doing, showing the trends. Where is it that you're doing really well? Where have you been struggling? You can start to break it down by particular competencies. And you can also look at the World Index, which is an aggregate of all the product owners who've taken the tool, and see how you've been doing over time. Now, we're not doing this to sort of have competition here. It's not about you against the world, but it's good sometimes to have an idea of how you're doing and see that, you know what, others are struggling also at times. It's not quite so simple. Here you can see that this particular person had a little bit of a dip here at somewhere in 2023 for whatever reason. But hey, things are back up again. And yeah, this is a continuous journey. It doesn't end. But that's okay. We keep adding new items to learn from. And then as we do that, we grow in our craft. The personal improvement backlog is